with a laser pointer on the front. Or if you need to plug into the computer and roll through stuff.
No, that's what we're saying. Gotcha.
In today's program, we hope to help you better understand the Winlink system by telling you about the message types, the pathways they take, and the modes required to do it in the Winlink Global Radio Messaging System. Winlink started in the late 1990s and is also known as the Winlink 2000 network. Winlink is an all-volunteer project of the Amateur Radio Safety Foundation, which is a non-profit, public benefit corporation. What really is Winlink? In its simplest terms, Winlink is a worldwide system for transferring email via radio. Winlink has global connectivity. These maps show some of the many RMS stations worldwide. Winlink also has a wide range of users. Winlink has traditionally been associated with amateur radio. This includes the casual ham operator using the system for his everyday email. It also includes amateurs that volunteer their services in many other organizations. In this program, all of the examples we will look at are based on the amateur radio users. Another major user of Winlink is emergency communications. These include groups using Winlink for local, state, national, and international emergencies. The redundancy, flexibility, and off-grid independence built into the Winlink system make it a strong player in the emergency communications environment. A lesser-known group of Winlink users are city, state, and our national government. And this also is true both within the United States and for
And
governments
this is
around
where
the
sheriff
world.
falls in, right
Also
here.
included in this category would be many allied agencies helping with government operations. They have all learned that Winlink gets the emails through when other operations are not available. For the general public, maybe one of the least known users of Winlink is maritime. Winlink is used at sea for email, position reporting, and receiving valuable weather information. These are all features that are built into Winlink's RMS Express software. Search and Rescue have also used Winlink communications to successfully get to distressed ships when normal voice operations were not possible. Here is the big picture view of the transfer paths in the Winlink system. It consists of amateur radio stations, also known as ham operators, which originate and receive email, RMS stations, and CMS servers. So let's take a closer look at the actual operation of the Winlink system. The first thing we need to look at are the different types of messages sent as Winlink email. Winlink operates primarily on software developed for the system by the Winlink development team. The software is called RMS Express. There are other softwares that can be used with the system like Outlook, Airmail, PackLink, and PPQ, but RMS Express is what is recommended. When you create an email message in the RMS Express program, you create it as a Winlink message or a peer-to-peer message. If you create a Winlink message, the assumption is that there will be one or more hops between the message originator and the end user. A WL2K message will be addressed to a call sign at winlink.org. It can also be addressed to any standard internet email address if it's to be delivered outside the Winlink system. And finally, the subject line has to start with //WL2K.
All right, let's talk about this for just a second. Because Winlink has to try to figure out a way to keep all the spam messages and junk mail out, because if it did, it would tie the system up terribly. Winlink will not allow an email coming from the outside world into the radio world unless it's got that WL2K in the message line, in the subject line. So if Joey wants to send me an email message to my Winlink account by radio from his computer using your normal email system, you've got to put //WL2K in the subject line of your email, or Winlink's going to reject it.
So that's why I was having problems on sending an email, from me to my Winlink email.
Right. It's got to have that.
It's gotta have that,
And now, it don't have to just have that. It can have that plus other words. It can have,
but it's gotta have that.
you know, meeting address. You okay? Meeting address, or you know, meeting announcement forward or slash WL2K. As long as it's got these 6 characters in it together, somewhere in the message subject line of the email, then Winlink will accept that message. Okay? You better go ahead and unpause that.
The other type of message is peer-to-peer. This is a direct message between 2 radio operators. In this case, the only thing that needs to be in the address line is the call sign of the recipient. In this example, it's K4REF. Once a type of message is chosen, we can now choose an automated session that is going to be used to send that message. As you can see, there are both WL2K sessions and peer-to-peer sessions listed in the session drop-down window in RMS Express. The next thing we want to look at are the different paths that the Winlink message can take as it makes its way through the system. The paths are Winlink, peer-to-peer, radio only, and post office. Again,
Now, let's talk about this just briefly. Once you create an email and you put it in your outbox, then through this drop-down menu, you can choose one of many different paths to send that message to the recipient, okay? The first one at the top, and he's going to get into this, but I want to make sure you all catch what I'm telling you. The telnet is just going through the internet. If you're sitting in an EOC and you have internet and your computer's connected to Wi-Fi, you can click on telnet and it's going to send it just like it's sending any other email. Okay? Everything below that will be ways to send it that utilizes some type of a radio. It could use a 2-meter radio or 440 radio up here. It could use a PACTOR on an HF radio, and all the way down to, it's not on this list, but actually what's the little satellite radio, the Iridiums? It's even got a program that you can plug into an Iridium satellite phone, and it'll send it by an Iridium phone, okay? So it's got multiple ways that you can choose to tell your computer to connect to a radio to send this message.
and the path taken is determined by the message type and the session chosen. The first path we want to look at is Winlink. Winlink is also referred to as WL2K. You'll notice that RMS Express has a group of sessions listed as WL2K sessions. This is a typical path of a Winlink or WL2K message. In this case, my friend Bob, KD7WKO, wants to send an email to Gary, AG4XO. Well, let's see how that's done. KD7WKO starts out by contacting a RMS station. In this case, it's VA3LKI, my friend Michael's PACTOR station in Canada.
And that's a gateway.
RMS stations are called radio message servers. KD7WKO uses RMS Express to pass his email to VA3LKI. If that station is connected to a CMS server, in this case Perth, then VA3LKI is considered to be a radio message server gateway because it has access to the internet and to Perth. So the email message reaches Perth. Once the message reaches a CMS server, it is duplicated out to all 5 of the common message servers located on.
Okay, this is a little bit out of date. There are no longer these 4 servers worldwide at Halifax and Perth, and one was in Brentwood, Tennessee. Now that's cloud-based, okay? So when you go to your, like where they've got K4REF right now, that could be W4KBL10 up here at the top of the hill. Okay, that's a radio connected to a computer, connected to the internet. So that's what we call a gateway. That's where the radio signal comes in out of the air and goes into the internet. Okay? That then goes to the cloud. So where you see all these yellow stations at the very top, those no longer exist. There's just a cloud where that all happens.
Okay, if we connect W4KBL 10
Uh-huh.
and we've got internet up there, does it go to the internet right then, or does it go on up the pathway?
No, it will go directly to the internet.
Okay.
Yep. It will pass right straight into the internet.
All around the world. In normal operations, these servers are really the backbone of the Winlink system. As long as there is at least one of these servers operational, the system path can function. WKO's email will sit on these servers until requested. The final link takes place when AG4XO contacts an RMS station using RMS Express to send and receive his email. In this fully automated process, he is connected to K4REF-10, which is my RMS VHF packet station in Knoxville. The station then contacts one of the CMS servers, in this case Halifax, and pulls down AG4XO's email and sends it on to him. So, this is a typical set of Winlink connections. It shows the pathways from and to the ham radio stations, the radio message server stations, and the CMS servers. If the internet goes down locally or regionally so that nearby RMS stations cannot connect to the CMS servers, it is still possible for the system to function. The originating station just has to reach out further to an active RMS gateway where the internet still exists. In this case, KD7WKO was able to reach out of the Tennessee Valley to VA3LKI in Canada, and thus send the email on its way into the Winlink system. The next path we want to look at is peer-to-peer, also known as P2P. You'll notice that the RMS Express software has a group of sessions that are listed as P2P. Peer-to-peer really just means person-to-person. KD7WKO wants to send an email to WA4BDS, his friend Roy. All he needs to do is make a direct connection between the two radios. So, KD7WKO uses RMS Express to connect to WA4BDS and send his email message. It's called a P2P session. So, whether it's across town using VHF frequencies or across the country with HF frequencies, this type of connection is still considered a direct peer-to-peer contact. The third path we want to take a look at is radio only. These can be WL2K or P2P types of connections. You'll notice that in the RMS Express software we have a group of radio-only sessions. I'm often asked, what happens if the internet goes down altogether and the CMS servers become unusable? The answer is the system converts to a message pickup station path. In our example here, KD7WKO wants to email WA4BDS. The first thing that needs to take place is that WA4BDS has to tell the Winlink system which station he wants to use to pick up his emails. With the internet down, there are no massive servers available to use for storage and transfer of the enormous number of emails that normally need to move through the Winlink system. Each ham radio station will need to choose from 1 to 3 message pickup stations so that the system...
Now this is something we're going to drill down into a little bit today and more in the near future, is the use of a message pickup station. Think about it as the old-fashioned BBS. There's a place where you can leave a message, like a post office, and somebody else can come and get their mail whenever they want to. So let's say, thanks a lot, Raymond. You're great. Anybody, if I wanted to send James a message and the internet's out completely, there is no internet, we don't have any connections to the internet because it's just down over a huge area, okay? I can still send James a message in Tree County direct to him. For that to happen though, James has to open his radio up, open up RMS, and open up his peer-to-peer software. So basically, he's being receptive to my message. You know, it's like he's up in the sailboat and he's got his binoculars up, all right? At that point, I can send him a message and he'll receive it. If he don't have his software up, he's not going to get that message. It's just going to go away. If he's not watching for the blinking light, he's not going to get it, all right?
You're talking about the RMS software.
RMS software, point to point, okay?
But it's gotta be sent from point to point.
It would be point to point. What I would do from my house is I would bounce it to Madisonville, then to Princeton, then to James. It's okay to use digipeters because they're not connected to the internet, okay? But I would be bouncing that message down to James with no use of the internet at all, okay? That's one way we can send messages with no internet. But the second thing we can do is we can have a message pickup station. Which, let's just, for the sake of saying it, let's say that the station up here on top of the hill was a message pickup station. It's all software. We download it into it, and you set it up in your computer that that's your pickup station. Then I could send James a message and leave it on this computer on top of the hill. Then in the afternoon when he comes in from doing his EOC work or his EMA work, and he wants to check his messages, he could cue this radio and ask it for all of his messages, and they would download them. So he would get them. Then let's say he wanted to reply to me. He could send a message back to here and leave it in the mailbox. And then when I had an opportunity to check my mailbox, I would download it. So if you're just sending messages within Western Kentucky, an MPS will work very well. And it works well without having to worry about whether you got internet connectivity or not. What it don't do, it's not necessarily going to get messages to Frankfurt because they would not have the ability to connect to this tower to get their messages, okay? So MPSs would be more for maybe this end of the state type thing, all right? Now, that's not to say that I send a message and put in there that Joey can pick it up, and I ask him, hey, Joey, send this email by HF on up to Frankfurt. And he could send it via a different route to get it up there, okay? Go ahead.
Can store his emails for pickup. With everyone in the system choosing a different set of MPS stations, it spreads storage across the system and minimizes the transfers needed. Since all messages will have to make all of their hops only by radio now, limiting the pickup stations makes the system much more efficient. To do this, WA4BDS goes to the hybrid network parameters in his RMS Express software and chooses 3 stations to be used to hold his email for pickup. So when emails go into the system from any of the hundreds of stations, those emails will make their way to the 3 stations that WA4BDS has chosen. So when KD7WKO sends an email out to WA4BDS, he does not have to know which stations are WA4BDS's MPS stations. He just connects to a working Winlink hybrid station, and the email will be passed along to the appropriate MPS station. In this case, KD7WKO connects to VA3LKI and sends the email out. VA3LKI then copies the message out to KR4MA and N0IA, which are the message pickup stations for WA4BDS. The last step is for WA4BDS to check his email, in this case connecting to N0IA, and his email is passed along to his station. The last path we want to look at is post office. This path uses a local area network or a mesh network. You'll notice that on the RMS Express session dropdown, the Telnet Post Office is listed. By choosing Telnet Post Office, we're going to choose a particular call sign and computer IP address as the location for the Winlink Post Office on this network. Again, this can be a local area network or a mesh network. A mesh network is one that uses wireless routers operating on amateur radio frequencies to transfer information. So, email is sent to the post office to be held there till the receiving user checks in for it, all using RMS Express. Well, now that we've looked at the 2 ways that those messages take through the Winlink system, let's look at the modes that are used to move that email. The modes of Winlink are based on the hardware being used and the group of radio frequencies that the messages travel on. The first unique one we want to look at is Telnet. When we say Telnet, what we're really talking about is using a network, or most commonly, the Internet. In this example, my friend John, KJ4JRL, wants to send an email to my AOL account, but he wants to use the Winlink system
Remember, up
to
here
do
where it
it.
says Halifax,
So
that's
he
just the
uses
cloud.
RMS
That's
Express
just the
and
internet cloud.
It's a Telnet connection to the Halifax CMS server. The email goes there, and then it goes out on the internet and to my AOL account. I can also use this same mode to send and return email from my AOL account to John via the same route. If John had wanted to use only the Winlink system, he could have addressed the email to my call sign K4REF@winlink.org. Still using RMS Express, he would have then passed the email to the Halifax server with a Telnet connection. The email would have resided on the CMS servers until I checked for it. When I use RMS Express to connect to a CMS server and download my email to my computer. Both of these are examples of Telnet mode of connections in the Winlink system.
Something to keep, here's an important point. When they talk about CMS servers, and we're gonna talk about that a lot, that is the Winlink computer servers that manage this whole system, okay? When we talk about, Joey, can your radio connect to the CMS? What I'm asking you is, can you get, when you check, are you able to get into their servers? Okay, we'll talk about how you do that, and how you look on your computer, and if you know if you're doing that or not. Go ahead.
System. The next mode we want to look at is packet and robust packet on VHF. Packet and robust packet both use VHF frequencies, which are basically short distance frequencies, normally 50 miles or less. This mode uses boxes that are described as TNCs, which stands for Terminal Node Controllers. The Cantronics KPC 9612 is a very popular example of a packet TNC. It's basically an external box that connects to both the PC and the ham radio, and converts sound to and from the radio to digital signals the computer can use. With the robust packet mode, you're using a very specific TNC called the tracker that is made by SCS. So if you're using an SCS tracker, you're using robust packet.
I'll just use this, Joey. I'll just use this.
The next mode we'll cover is Pactor, which uses HF frequencies.
We're not gonna go ahead and stop
Pactor
it, John.
uses HF
We're
frequencies.
gonna concentrate today on the VHF side of the system. Because we could spend a lot of time talking about Pactors, but all I'm gonna say about Pactors is if we go into the share side and we do the HF work, you've gotta have a Pactor modem. Shares will not allow you to move message traffic on HF without a Pactor modem. They're terribly expensive in my opinion, but
I've never seen
that's the current requirement. So let me pull back up.
All right, let me ask you a question while you got a little bit of a break.
Sure.
All right, let's say JL down in Fulton County, which is the furthest west, is wanting to send you a message in Hartford. But
Okay.
he connects for, you said 2 hops. So he sends, let's say JL sends the message from Fulton to Murray. And Murray sends it up here to us.
Then it's
But
gonna have to go, I'm gonna have to get it in the next hop.
So, if you can't get it in the next hop, can it sit on a server here?
If
message
we
server
set
here?
up a message pickup station, yes.
Okay, so
And
that's
that's
how
a-
we could talk from Hartford to Fulton.
Right, right.
But Joey, you can't connect to Murray yet because he hadn't
Well,
programmed.
I'm just using that as an example. I'm just using that as an example, that how we can hop around, cause I think he said you only go like 2 hops.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that you're limited to 2 hops, which somewhat limits the distance you can go. But we're gonna talk about how a message pickup station will really give us 4 hops, because the message will set in the middle and you can go 2 hops to either side of it.
Right, right.
pull.
All right, if he sent a message, let's say he sent a message to the message pickup system to, let's say, state EOC.
Okay?
Could somebody else come in and pick that up and send it on up for Morehouse?
No, it would be only the addressee.
Okay.
So that's why, for that to happen, they would have to address it to you, and then you could pull that message down and then take it to HF and move it on up.
Or if you send it to you, you may be able to send it on up.
That's correct. That's correct. All right,
Oh, moly.
here's our system, all right? When you look at our system, what are we trying to do? Well, what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to be able to move messages anywhere on this screen. We want to be able to move messages from Mayfield and Murray. We're going to put Murray down here, even though they're not up, but they're a user. So I don't know if y'all can see the difference between a user and a digi, but I've got little sticky notes. One says U and one says digi. We're going to talk about the difference. So we want to be able to move messages back and forth in this region. Also, what we would like to be able to do is move messages to Frankfurt, okay? Those are our two primary missions. What we're going to talk about more today is how this system works within the region, all right? When Casey needs to communicate with BJ and the cell service and the internet's completely down, how could he do that? So, to do that, you've got all these stations that are currently connected to the internet. Paducah, Princeton, you've got Henderson, you've got Owensboro, Hallsville, Windy Hill, Beaver Dam, Bowling Green. Those are our current RMS gateways. Remember what a gateway was? A gateway is a radio with a computer that's continuously connected to the internet. So if that station still has internet, you can use it. So let's say we have an ice storm hit tomorrow, God forbid.
That station that you're showing to the east of Beaver Dam, is that where Windy Hill is?
It is,
Okay.
It's
I
on a
didn't
real
know
high,
where Windy Hill was.
high location. So let's say we had an ice storm come through, and that ice storm does just exactly what they say it's gonna do. It comes right up the WK Parkway, and for 50 miles to the either side of the parkway, it wipes out internet and connectivity. There's no cell phones, there's no internet. So Paducah, Princeton, and Beaver Dam do not have internet. So now these gateways aren't gonna work because they're not connected to the internet no more, right? But they'll still work as a digipeater. And if you got any background with 2-meter repeaters, they work very similar. You set a signal to it and it bounces it to somebody else, okay? So if that's the case, Raymond's sitting down here in Princeton, he still needs to communicate to Frankfurt. We know that the storm hadn't hit Henderson or Owensboro bad yet. So if Raymond can bounce that signal to Windy Hill, and from Windy Hill to Hallsville, Hallsville's still got internet, then he's gonna send his emails via Hallsville, all right? And he would do that by bouncing from Princeton, and I'm gonna use these stickies. There are other stations that are not on this map. And Casey, these are called digipeaters. I wish Winlink would show these, but they won't. But digis are stations that we have that are not connected to the internet, but are in good locations that can still be used as a bounce, okay? So we've got one of these at Madisonville. So what Raymond would do is he would transmit from Princeton to Madisonville to Windy Hill to Hallsville, okay? That would be his path to get a signal to the internet. Now, if he tried that signal and he could get to Hallsville, but it never would connect him to a, what is it, it's 3 letters,
RMS.
CMS. CMS is a computer system. If he can't get connected to the CMS at Hallsville, that means for whatever reason, Hallsville don't have connectivity either. So then he could try to go to Owensboro, or he could go to Bowling Green, all right? And he could find that station that still had CMS connectivity, and then he could send his email out by, or his message out by email. Now, if he finds a station that has internet, then he could email Ken direct. Ken would get it on his email at his office, just like he always does, provided he's got connectivity, okay? And he could reply to you. The important thing is when Ken Kick decides to reply to you, Raymond, he's gotta put that / WL2K in the subject line, or the Winlink CMS will not let it pass through, all right? So you send him a message, you give him a status report, he replies to your message, puts the / WL2K in the subject line, then he puts it back into the CMS server. Then later, you can go back and reconnect and download your emails, okay? Now, we talk a lot about 2 hops. The Winlink system limits you to 2 hops when you send a message.
Why is it 2?
Well, every time you hop, you cut your bandwidth in half. And I think their theory is, if you hop more than twice, your bandwidth got so low that the message is gonna be so slow that it may not make it through.
What?
So, we've got a digi at Madisonville. We've got a digi sitting right here at Henderson. We've got a digi sitting here in Owensboro. Okay, those are stations that are on high points, high locations, got a good antenna, good radio, but for whatever reason, we currently don't have the ability to connect that station to the internet where they're located, okay? But they're still very beneficial to us. We can use them to help pass traffic. Right now, you cannot go from Princeton to Windy Hill in one hop. It's too far. That's probably 60 miles, maybe 70. It's a long haul. It's too far. But you can bounce through Madisonville and into Windy Hill, okay? Keep in mind though, when you're sitting here at the EOC, or you're sitting at Raymond's desk, or you're sitting down at the RPS down here at the Area 2 fire training site, getting to the Princeton Tower is gonna be one of your hops, okay? So now how many hops you got left? 1. So you got 1 hop and then you gotta hit a station. That means you can bounce to Princeton, then you can bounce to Madisonville, but now you've gotta get back into the internet. You don't have the ability to bounce again, but remember, Windy Hill is a gateway. It's connected to the internet, so that would be 1, 2, and down. So you can hop twice and then go down into the internet. So that don't mean you gotta be where you're going on your second hop. You're allowed 2 hops, and we're gonna play with that in a minute and show you how it works. So this is our system right now.
All right, question. Would it be advantageous for us to make Princeton a digi feeder?
It is. Any gateway is also a digi. They'll serve both.
So we're already a digi.
Yeah, so let's say that the internet's out here, that station up here will still serve as a digi. You just don't really need it to very often because you've got internet there, right? But if the internet was completely out, it would still be real handy because you could bounce messages through it. Now there is a digi at the hospital in Paducah because the gateway in Paducah isn't very strong. So it's not up on a real big tower. What you're gonna find with some of these gateways is that it's at a person's house. They've got a 20-foot tower, little antenna. They maintain it, they keep it up, but it's not got a huge footprint. The one in Owensboro, that's Bob Spears. He's on maybe a 25-foot tower, so he's kind of limited. But if you bounce through the digi in Owensboro, you can hit him real easy. Because if you went up another 100-foot, Joey, you might make this hop direct, which eliminates a hop. You might be able to get up to Henderson, which we can't currently do. If you look at everything we've got now, there's a pinch point. And I'm talking about a pinch point being a location where there's only one way across the river, okay? And then you're back out wide again. If you're sitting here at Princeton, you want to send a message, you can go to Paducah or you can go to Beaver Dam. But everything has to go through Madisonville. If Madisonville is out, you don't have a whole lot of options on this end of the state. You can go from Princeton down to James, You can go to Paducah, but you can't go east at all. Madisonville's kind of a pinch point. It would be nice if we had multiple paths around that, okay?
It would help anything west of us if we went up another 100 foot.
That's right, Joey. Hey, what's up? Okay, Casey, let's just put this in perspective for you. You need to communicate with Raymond. You need to move traffic from Owensboro to Princeton, okay? Your pathway to do that would be through the Digi and Owensboro, so that's one hop. If you could make it straight to Addisonville, that's 2 hops, then into Princeton. The problem is, you gotta go from Princeton down here to Raymond, that's a 3rd hop. Now,
I had a question, because some of this, right now we're talking about direct, we're not talking about dumping in the internet at all, right?
no, right now we are talking about internet, but
Because
Go
we've
for
narrowed
it.
it to here, but whereas like you can't go directly from Princeton to Henderson because you just don't have it. If Madisonville's out, could he not go east and find a way to dump into the internet and it kind of
as
backdoor
long
around
as
that
there's
way?
internet down here, he could. But we still gotta be able to reach out and find internet for that to work. If this was a message pickup station, and I'm gonna stick a couple more stickers here to kind of denote that. If this was a message pickup station, and people could pick up their messages at Madisonville, all of a sudden, if Madisonville can reach Henderson, everybody in this system can reach Madisonville within 2 hops or less. Raymond could bounce up to Princeton and to Madisonville. You could go from Owensboro to the Digi in Owensboro and to Madisonville. I could go to Madisonville in 2 hops. Henderson could go to Madisonville within 2 hops. Everybody can reach Madisonville. James Flood could reach Madisonville in 2 hops, okay? We use that as a message pickup station. Then if the internet's completely out, we drop our messages there.
It
And you
doesn't matter
can pick
whether
them
you
up
got
from
internet
there,
or not, yeah.
you know? Otherwise, you're exactly right. You could send Raymond a message going east, maybe you connect in Hallsville. Then Raymond's gotta figure out a way to get out to the internet and he could pick his messages up, all right? And most of the time, that's what we're gonna be able to do. Most of the time, we're not talking about a complete loss of the internet. We're talking about a tornado, maybe, that hits Owensboro and it knocks out service for the city and the surrounding area, or an ice storm, like we had in '09, that come right up the Parkway and took everything out, 40 miles either side of the Parkway. You've got this big strip that you've just gotta reach out of that area to pick it up, okay? But having Madisonville a little stronger, and we're working on a plan to get that antenna replaced and maybe a little higher. So that would make Madisonville be able to connect to Henderson and hopefully direct to Owensboro. And then we know Princeton, Madisonville's strong. Madisonville to Windy Hills, so-so. If it's a little stronger, it would be beneficial. But then we've got that line right here that we can bounce through. All right? Does everybody understand how the stations work and the difference between a digi and a gateway and a user, okay? A user, I missed your name a while ago, sir.
Me, I'm Ty.
Ty, okay, Ty, we're gonna say Ty is a user. He's set up at some little community that's had a tornado, okay? And they've lost internet for a part of that county. And he's gone there to help out. Where do you live at, Ty? Here in Princeton, okay. So let's say he's went down to help out somewhere south of Princeton going down 128. So he's sitting down here and he is a user. So he set a station up, maybe he's just using his car antenna and a laptop and equipment. So how's Ty gonna get out and get to the internet? Well, if it's a local enough event, he can just connect to Princeton, he's got internet. If things are a little bad and Princeton don't have internet either, he could bounce to Princeton, over here to Madisonville, and then into Windy Hill and get internet, okay? That user can be anywhere as long as he's close enough to one of our stations or one of our digis to get connectivity, all right? I think that's maybe phase 2 or 3 of our project is getting ramped up and training on setting up remotely, like when they had the Eclipse event, you know, maybe setting up down there. I think we actually did that, and we had the ability to connect down there to the internet.
Did you say that a digi
repeater counts as one of our hops?
It does.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you what don't count. You're gonna really like this thought. What don't count is a mesh network hop to that computer. So, we're not gonna talk tons about mesh network, but I wanna touch on it today. If we had a mesh system that connected to the Princeton tower, when Raymond connected to that great computer, it wouldn't be a hop. He would be looking at that computer direct, and that would eliminate that hop. So that's big. Not only does that eliminate a hop, but his bandwidth between here and there would be astronomical, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would allow Casey and Owensboro to hit the digi there without a hop. That would eliminate a hop. And what a mesh network does, guys, it essentially is a long-range Wi-Fi link. So on your computer, you wouldn't be going through the radio to get to that tower. You'd be using a long-range Wi-Fi link to do it. Then you would actually be connecting using that tower's radio and computer. Does that make sense? Okay.
But what kind of range does that?
From you to the Roosevelt House, if we can get an antenna up on the roof of your building, getting to the Roosevelt House won't be a problem at all. A few miles, 2 or 3, 4 miles. Raymond.
You know, when I'm going to like the digi or the gateway out here, and you talking about making hop, what do I do to tell it to make another hop or two?
We'll go to that next,
Okay,
Raymond.
always.
That's a good segue into what we're doing next. So does everybody understand the difference between, there's a few terms here I want to make sure everybody knows. What's CMS mean? Anybody?
Computer messaging service.
It's the cloud. It's the Winlink cloud. It's getting into their computer system, okay? That's the CMS. What is an RMS gateway? Somebody else?
Radio messaging service.
And what's an RMS gateway do?
Connects to the internet.
It connects the radio to the internet. This tower up here on the hill is a gateway. Windy Hill's a gateway, okay? Those are permanently established, or normally permanently established, radio connections to the internet, okay? Any of those little green dots up there are gateways. If you look this up online, you can just pull this up, it's public knowledge. You can see what gateways are currently active, because if a gateway goes down, those green dots turn red, and then they disappear after a couple days, okay? So if that's green, it's reported in within the last 12 hours that it's up and going.
I was wondering why the one in Bowling Green got a red one and a green one.
It's not working quite right. Yeah, something's wrong with it. All right? What is a digi? Someone else.
That's basically radio and computer, it's not hooked to the internet.
Right, and it don't even have to be a computer. It can be a radio and a Cantronics TNC. If you've got a radio and a TNC, you can set up a digi, okay? And what is a user? Someone else?
Anybody that's got a setup.
That's right. Anybody that's logged into the RMS system and created themselves an account.
And ours is on 145 0.
010. That's correct. That's another good thing to tell everybody.
Now Paducah's group is a different.
No, his is on 010. Evansville is on 190 or something.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I thought they said that Paducah was on.
Well, we can tell because you
When
can
they go to
hover.
Illinois, it is.
Oh, okay.
Shawneetown, Illinois, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's actually not shown on here, so he must be down.
It's 6:15.
So if we hover over that, you're going to see that it's up on 010. It'll give the call sign, and it'll tell you the capabilities of that station, okay? All right, so now, we've kind of went over how it works. We've talked about our VHF system. Just keep in the back of your mind, there's another side of this called HF, where you can take an HF radio, and I'm going to just show you the HF gateways, but we're not going to talk about HF today. We're going to stick with our 2 meters. Now, let me show you the the HF side. And if any of you want to write down how to find this, if you go to www.winlink.org, okay, we're going to do this. All right, you go to their homepage right here. Got all kinds of information about Winlink on it. Go to Tools and click on it. Tools is going to give you a map. If you go to that map up here at the top, you pick, do you want to see their packet gateways, is which what we've been looking at, or do you want to look at their PACTOR gateways, or do you want to look at their RDOP has taken the place of Winlink as far as a sound card program. So let's just look at the amount of RDOP stations. There's not many of them compared to packet, right? You'll see there's much less, but you need less because these stations have 400, 500, 600 mile ranges. They're HF. Most of them are multi-frequency, and you know, if you can connect to it, you can send data that way. Now let's talk about a little bit about the difference between HF and packet. It's connection speed. And in our days, you know, working with computers and high-speed connections, we don't think much about connection speed. This equipment works really, really slow, okay? A RDOP connection is going to be about 300 baud, all right? That's not megabaud, baud. So a third of a kilobaud, you know, slow. You'll send a 3-paragraph message will take 30 seconds to send, maybe, okay? On HF, RDOP, you're connecting at 300. If you're connecting on 2 meters, you're connecting at 1200. So you're 4 times faster on 2 meters than you are on HF. Now, an argument would be, why don't we do everything on HF? Then we don't have to worry about hops. I'm going to tell you the problem with HF, and it's not a bad problem, but it's there. During the event in the Caribbean in 2017, when Puerto Rico was hit so hard, all they had down there was Winlink. They had nothing else. So they had about 20 Winlink users set up in Puerto Rico, reaching to the United States to make connections. Those stations stayed very, very busy, okay? Now, those are the ham stations. Those compete with people doing any of the digital modes on ham. So you might reach out to Chicago and think, hey, I can connect Chicago and send a message, but when you get ready to do it, somebody's on MT63 or FT8 sending digital messages right over the top of that frequency and you can't connect. And that happens a lot. If you go on a weekend when there's a contest going on, a digital contest, you can forget it. Now let me go to PACTOR, because there are only PACTOR stations in shares. There's nothing else. There is the shares network for these. Now the good thing is these stations are not part of the ham radio stations. So when there are digital contests going on, it don't affect these guys at all. So these stations have much less traffic on them and much less QRM around those frequencies.
That's those ones you PACTOR modem for?
That's correct. Those are the ones you gotta have a shares license and a PACTOR modem, okay?
Are they using the Mars frequencies?
They're using a section, yes, of the Mars frequencies.
Okay.
They're just like Mars, but they're, instead of being managed by the Department of Defense, they're managed by the Department of Homeland Security, okay? Now, let's look at this, because I use these quite a bit. Look down here in Arkansas at this one that's NNC6AR. That's set up at the Arkansas State EOC, okay? So the nice thing is that's maintained, the site that's got security, it's got backup generator, it's got, you know, it's in a redundant building, it's everything's sturdy. That station's gonna withstand a certain amount of weather, certain amount of problems, okay? Most all these share stations are that way. When you go back and look at the public stations under Winlink, And you just do that by typing in public. When you look at them, a lot of those are just at someone's house. That station may be at Jim Duke's house, and I've got a little G5 RV in my backyard, and I run it, and if I'm having trouble with my radio, my station's gonna be down. Or if I'm out of town on vacation and the power boots, my station may be down, you know. It may not be quite as reliable, all right? But if it's green on here, it's working, all right? Has anybody got any questions about the basics of how Winlink works and how our system's kind of set up in Western Kentucky?